Okay, talk about yourself. Oh, you skinny blank. Okay.
Okay. It is a real pleasure to see this room filled the way that it is. And the composition, because the composition didn't start like this. And we didn't have too many filled rooms either, because we met in each other's apartments. We didn't even have community rooms to meet in.
What was it called? The Boston?
We started with a Boston MAHT Tenant Alliance, and that goes back to the 80s. And we were trying to, but I met Michael before that because I got moved around by the BRA with all of those kinds of things. So I sort of adopted him. And he is the child from another mother. But I always made sure, as you all know, his suits were pressed, his ties, his shirts were red, and his shoes were never run over because I made sure of that. But
Yeah, we had a problem with that.
But also, he has been the hardest working housing advocate in this country.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of him. Now, we started back, like I said, with the Boston MAHT Tenant Alliance, and we sort of evolved, and we worked at that point in time to go into Washington to do things for us. And we went to meet with Low Income Housing Coalition, and because Michael went there, they only had managers and leaders come. And Michael said, you don't have any tenants. So they said, well, okay, we'll let some of the tenants come. So I think the ones from California, Chicago, and Boston, we went. And the first year, and then the next year, there was a nice lady named what's her name? Kirsten Dobier, who was on the coalition. She said, there's enough of you all. Why don't you form your own coalition? And we said, how do we do that? And so we met in her garage, and we said, okay, we'll form our own coalition. And that was really difficult because the tenants wanted to do it, but the leaders, like Michael, from other coalitions from Texas and California and Chicago in particular, said, no, the tenants can't think, we just want to do it with us. And we said, no, we can speak for ourselves.
Right.
And we had a knockdown, drag out over the night meeting that caused us to have a heart attack 2 weeks later. But we came up with a national, formed into the National Alliance of HUD Tenants. And, but the backbone of the National Alliance has always been New England. And we formed from the Boston HUD Tenant Alliance. We started to have people from Worcester, from wherever, and they said, well, we're not Boston. We said, well, we can become Massachusetts. And so the people in the western part of the state said, yes, we will come into the Massachusetts Alliance of HUD Tenants. And so in the meantime, Michael has been the forerunner and the leader and the coalition that has kept all of this process together. And I think we went through but to see it now expanded, well, first we were out in Greenfield, Michael, out in the western part of the state.
Art Wilson.
Yeah, they were the only ones that come, and the rest of you all, we didn't even know you existed. But I'm glad that wherever you were, you have come forward, and are doing, because that's the only way this is going to work. Out out of the National Alliance of HUD Tenants, where I live in Charles Bank Apartments in Longwood and Huntington Street. And so we said they had come up, HUD and the Lions too, with money for, how for co-ops to purchase their building. And Jack Kemp was the secretary. Well, he was a good football player too.
That's true.
Probably he evolved into a co-op, and they said, "Oh no, we can't do this this is just for public housing," and that we can't do this for regular for HUD housing. So to go back about a couple of years, we said, well, if public housing can be organized, why can't we?
Right.
And so that's how the National Alliance of HUD Tenants was recognized by HUD. And Michael put that together. And we had a very interesting meeting. It took a bit of manipulation and coordination, and we didn't do diplomacy. That's the word I want. Is diplomacy.
Schmoozing, I call it.
But we got them to agree to formulate to agree multifamily housing tenants had a right to be recognized by HUD. And that's how all of you got into all of this. And out of that, we said, well, if they can come up with a whole 1 grant for public housing, why can't they come up with a whole 2 grant for multifamily housing? So it took us 3 years of going up to Washington, up the hill to get this done. But as part of it, Michael got us through, I think it was in Moakley, got us the hearing before the Senate Banking Committee.
Oh, that was, it was actually, D'Amato was the.
Yeah, Alphonse D'Amato. Well, and so I did it, and as a matter of fact, it's still on the
That's great.
CSPN. If you want to turn it on, the speech that Michael wrote for me to do. So it was me and 4 white male developers. But the nice thing about it, all the cameramen and directors from CSPN said, hey, this is a good idea. And they kept me in the middle. So when all of them were testifying, I was in the middle always with what they had to say. And I think we impressed the Senate committee enough. They did pass it, and the grant was issued for $9 million. And so we had to scramble all around the country to pull up proposals and things. So the people where I am in Charles Bank were being turned into co-ops and things. And so in 90 days, they wrote a proposal that went in, was accepted. And that's how Charles Bank became the first.
Who wrote the proposal?
Michael wrote the proposal. I already said that.
No, you said they.
Michael wrote the proposal.
Yep, that's right.
And so we are a limited equity cooperative at the corner of Longwood and Huntington. And just because we're not because we're not HUD initiated, we can't be legal members. But I'm kind of an ad hoc, whatever it is, they'd allow me to belong anyway. But that's what you all can look forward to. Just because it looks dim right now, and all of the things that should be done, but all of these things, the lobbying is the most important part. Now, I don't see many of the older ones here like me anymore, but when we went to Washington and walked up that hill and struggled and met with our representatives and things, and to convince them that we had needs and things. But it wasn't easy for us, because the first trip we took to Washington was, we had the members that we had, I think we had about 6 or 7, and most of them are gone now except Jim McNeil and Juanita and I. We went to Washington in Jim McNeil's van. And to go before that, we had a fish fry to raise the money for us to go. So just because you don't have monies from wherever industry or agency you are, look within your own building for resources for whatever you can do to raise money on your own. So if you have money on your end, it's like any other loan. If you have money in your pocket, somebody will be willing to match it. So if it's a clothing drive, if it's a fish fry, if it's a card party, if it's a yard sale, or whatever it is, build your own income so that you have all your resources to deal with. And that's how we originally went to Washington. And we stayed in a hotel, 3 to a room. And it wasn't, but we had a good time doing it.
There's some stories I can tell.
We had a good time doing what we did.
Many adventures.
But the accomplishment is that we are in that building. We own it, we run it, we do everything. The management corporation, we have we paid off the land portion of it, so we have clear coverage. So even if you don't want to own your own building, because it can be a pain in the neck. So, and tenants participation doesn't come any easier. And you have just as many laggers and stay behinds and say we can't do and don't want to go against the establishment because they're afraid of their own space. And then you have others who decide, I'm going to develop my own power base and run over the top of you and coerce you. And so, but just stick to your guns, do like you're doing, keep going forward, and you will succeed. And like I say, the number of tenants that are now involved with MAHT is remarkable. And I'm still proud to be part of it. So anything that, if you ever want me to come to any of your units to do whatever, you're not going to have my email because I only check that every 10 days. No, I don't. But I have a text in my phone where I can take text messages, and I look at that all the time. So, but the one thing I want to do today is for Michael. Michael knows that for the last 10 or 15 years, I have asked him if he would do a book that covered the evolution of tenant organizing for low-income housing people. Everybody has picked off, nurtured off, and done what he's done. And he has gotten not 1 minute's worth of credit for it. And so I encourage him, and I encourage you all, whatever resources and things that you have that you can give him to encourage him to do it. I tried to get him to take time off and go back to Yale and get a doctorate or whatever he needs to do, but he wouldn't quit working.
He could get an honorary doctorate. He should.
But he can't get an honorary anything if we
That's a
don't
great
initiate
idea.
it and push it and support him to do it. And that's what I would like to see us do, is for him to get the recognition for the 50 or 60 some years that he's been at this. and the resources are all there, and he has the ability to do it too. So that's my request from you all, is that all of you to keep it in his ear. Say, Michael, how is the book going? So because what will
Hey,
happen?
Michael, how's the book going?
But no, what will happen? What
He's
will
working on the dedication.
Right.
Yeah, no, but what's gonna happen without Michael? You're gonna have groups like your home groups. Now they say,
And they will pay for you to get a degree.
Conversation at a time, please.
no, you're gonna have home groups and other groups that are saying that are doing it according to the institutional way, and they're not totally committed to tenants. They're driving a cart with two horses, and the lead horse with the money is the one that they're gonna give the most lead to, so that for any tenant groups that need the information that Michael and experience that he has in his head and in his heart should be put down someplace so that any coalition can go back and look to it, and it could be academically accepted. And that's where we've got to begin the education through ground up. If we have your MSWs are coming out with all different kinds of degrees, and tenant organizing, just plain old organizing, has always been the bastard part of fundraising.
Right.
So that for it to become institutionalized in the process, there has to be an academic process that sustains and supports it and is recognized by it, and he can do it. So thank you all for listening to me.
Thanks, Mary.